friends, I'm Liz.
I'm Robbie. Welcome back to our channel, Bookworm Couple. Today we are going to do a wrap-up of January, the first month of 2024, and then look forward to do a little bit of our TBR for next month.
Yes.
Yes. It was
Huzzah!
pretty
This was a great month.
Yeah.
There's so much reading this month.
A lot of reading this month. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I love.
Which is good. I didn't read very much in the last few weeks of December, so I made up for it, I think, this month, which is good.
Yeah.
This month, the first video that we made was for Heir of Fire, the third book in the Throne of Glass series.
Not Robbie's favorite.
Did not like this book very much. As we've moved farther away from it, I've liked it less. I think I gave it like a 3.5 or something
Maybe.
in the video. I would lower that to like a 3 or even like a 2.5 now that I've sat with it for just a little bit. I had a lot of problems with this
It's okay.
book.
You can. That's why we're doing this.
Yeah, it just
Be
was
honest.
not. And even, you know, it was just not an enjoyable read overall for me. The next video that we released was the fourth book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, The Battle of or for the Labyrinth.
That was 5.
No, the fifth is the final book. We read the penultimate book in the series.
Yeah, okay.
Yes,
the
so
fourth book, Battle of the Labyrinth.
Yes, Battle of the Labyrinth was the next video that we released, and this was my favorite one of the series so far.
Absolutely loved it. Yeah, I absolutely loved it.
It was great. It
was
felt
so
like
good.
so much payoff started coming through.
I rated it 5. Good for me.
Rated
I
it 5?
loved it so much. Yeah, I did.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I don't remember that in the video, but I think I gave. Oh, actually, I do. You did.
I
think
did.
Yeah. I think I gave it a 4.5.
Yeah.
Anyway, I loved this book.
I was pumped. I read it in like 4 hours.
Yeah,
not really, but like
it was really great. It was really exciting to see this series kind of like level up in that way. I thought. I'm very excited for the last one. Yeah, it was the romance book. There's a lot of romance.
But you know, I love some romance.
Yeah, a lot of awkward teen romance.
Yeah, gotta have it.
Yeah, it was great.
Yes.
And then
I read The Shadow Rising, which was book 4.
Yeah, you're already 4 books in.
Wow. This is my second favorite one thus far. The third one was definitely my favorite. I absolutely loved it. I wanted to go back and retroactively give that one a 5. I think I
Which one? The Dragon Reborn?
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved that one. And this one was and I think that's why I read so much this month, because this is the first time I think I read that in a week and a half, maybe.
Really? That's
Which
fast.
was pretty fast for me with those books specifically. And they're thick little buddies.
They're thick
and
boys.
I struggled to, with the pacing of the first few, but I was so pumped after The Dragon Reborn that I full out the gate read this one. And I physically read, because I've been listening to them, and the other ones I probably listened to 80 or 90% and actually physically read the other ones. This one I think I probably read 40%, maybe 40 to 50%, dependent on. It was definitely a lot more because I really enjoyed it. It had me turning pages and I really loved it. So I'm excited for book 5.
Yeah, I know. Exciting stuff. So, did you read anything on your own this month?
I did. I read a whole bunch of books.
Oh, good. Go through. Yeah, please.
Well, I guess I read 3 other books.
Okay, that's a
outside
bunch.
Of that. That's a bunch for me, especially since I've barely been
That's 5 books this
keeping
month.
up.
That's
That is
a lot.
5 books this month, and I've been enjoying it. They're all Sarah J. Maas books, so here we go. You can tell what I like. I started A Court of Frost and Starlight right before New Year's because I wanted a sweet little kind of festive read. So I started it late December, finished it in the first week of January. I love that one. It's a novella in the Court of Thorns and Roses series. I know a lot of people don't love it. I love it. I think it's delightful. It has one of my favorite sex scenes in all of the series in
there
it.
You go.
And I think it's really fun. It was nice to have a little festive book, but also a fantasy festive.
Was that a reread?
It was a reread for me. That's the third time I've read that one. I didn't reread the entire ACOTAR series, just that one, which I'm fine with. I'm the kind of person that, if I'm vibing with one book of a series, I'll read that one book, which I know hurts your whole body.
I cannot.
Robbie
if
is
I want
the
to read the
completionist
third
in
book
that
in a
way.
series, I have to start at book 1.
I get it, and I will do an ACOTAR reread again because it's my favorite series. Fun fact about me, I've only ever reread a couple of books. I was gonna say a couple of series, I would say 2 books, but it's really 2 series. I've only reread The Great Gatsby and ACOTAR. The only books I've reread.
I've reread so many books.
I know. I always struggle when I know what's going to happen to get excited about it, but I've discovered this thing about myself. I forget a lot of books. And so the general gist of all my favorite books, I know what happens and I know the big things, but I've realized I forget a lot of how we get there, and I'm realizing that because the other 2 books that I read this month are book 1 and 2 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas, because we are getting literally the end of this month. So when does this come out?
This is coming out. Actually, it will have already come out when we shoot this video. when we release this video.
Yes, okay.
So we record things a few days in advance.
Yeah. So the third book in the Crescent City series is coming out. It's a really big deal. It's been a long time since we've got any new Sarah J. Maas, so I decided to do a reread with Crescent City series because Robbie so lovingly got them for me for Christmas, and I am loving it. But I'm realizing that I forgot so many things. I remembered the big things, but I kind of forgot a lot of the little isms in between and how they happened. So I read House of Earth and Blood, which is the first in the Crescent City series. This is my second time through, gave it a 5, absolutely obsessed with it. As obsessed with it as I was the first time, maybe a little bit more so because there's a lot that happens in the beginning of the book, and I definitely struggle with that. If you've watched any of our Wheel of Time videos, you know me and lore dumping and world building. I love them, but I can't always keep up, and this one is definitely fast-paced with that, but I loved it. I love these characters. Bryce is one of my favorite female characters I've ever read. She's just so powerful and so awesome, and I see so much of myself in her, and I think that's very much why this character was written, for so many women to see themselves in her. She's awesome. And then I also read A House of Sky and Breath, which is the second book in the Crescent City series, the one leading up to the third book that has come out. So exciting. This one's good. I didn't love it as much as the first one. I struggled getting into it a second time, and I think that was very much because I was like, I know all these things are going to happen, and there's so much mystery in this book where you're like,
oh, interesting.
Are we? Do we? Where are they? How are we going to find them? How are we going to do this? And I remember, though I will say, I didn't remember exactly what happened, but I struggled a little bit to get into it because I was like, I'm ready for this part. Yeah. But I love it. I highly recommend them. I love them so much. Crescent City is so good. It's a modern urban fantasy, which I had never read. And at first, it really threw me for a loop because I'd only come from very kind of traditional fantasy realms. And now, obsessed with it. Because, again, I can see so much of myself in there. I can see so much of, college Liz in the way that they describe.
Oh, they're in college?
No, they're post-college, but a lot of the, lifestyle is very, city lifestyle, partying,
sure.
cell phones and internet and all that. And the way they dress as well. Yeah, and I, this second time through, I really, because I knew what I was going into, I was just, in it, fully in it. I love it. Anywho, that's what I read this month. And then on to the next.
So excited.
I'm not ready.
Just think about it. By the time this video goes up, you'll have read at least part of the third book.
You guys.
I know. Gonna be exciting month.
I'm gonna throw up.
I also read quite a bit this month. I think I read 6 books by myself. Yeah, so I read I think 6 books. To be fair, 2 of them were short story collections, and 1 of them was a novella.
You don't have to be fair. So, you are a monstrous reader, and that is amazing.
Thank you.
And I admire
it. So I started off this year finishing the second book in the Sun Eater series by Christopher Rocchio, Howling Dark. There's going to be a lot of Sun Eater stuff in this, so I honestly think I might just go through them all together instead of going one by one.
How many of them have you read this month?
Everything I read by myself except for 1 book was a Sun Eater book. So I'll just go through them and then we'll talk about the other book that I read.
How many are there in the series?
There's 7 books total, but there are 3 collections of short stories and 3 novellas right now. There's only 6 books out. The 6th one is actually coming out in April, though you can get an early reader copy on the Baen Books website, I believe. I'll put the link down below if you will happen to be that far in and you would like to read it a few months early. Yes, so Howling Dark, second book in the Sun Eater series. This is where I finally understood everyone's love and praise for this series. I talked about it briefly in our last wrap-up video. I had finished Empire of Silence, and while I was editing it, I was watching it back and being yeah, I'm a little confused as to why everyone loves this so much. I liked it. I thought it was very well written, and I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was amazing. It's been a long time since I read the Red Rising series. I plan to do a reread before the last book in the series comes out, hopefully sometime I think next year, but I don't remember. I was obsessed with that from the off. I liked Empire of Silence. I thought it was a good book, but it wasn't my new obsession. After about the halfway point of Howling Dark, I got it. The book just takes off, and I think really importantly, Rocchio really locks his prose in. He seems to have really found his style and most importantly, Hadrian's voice, which is extremely poetic and philosophical and beautiful. And in the first book, I felt there were some, forced moments or some stumbles, but by the end of the second book, he's really locked it in, and it's just a joy to read, really. It's beautiful. So that was a easy 5 stars for me. The next book I read was Queen Amid Ashes, which is the second novella in the Sun Eater series. It follows Hadrian and the Red Company on a planet. I'm not going to go too deep into it. It was a bit of a mystery, which was kind of fun. I liked it just about the same as I liked the first one, which is good. I think that, Rockio writes really good novellas. But again, didn't have a ton to do with the larger story, but it's just fun to be in that world and see those characters again. The next thing I read was the Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1, which is the first collection of short stories in the Sun Eater universe. And I'll also just cover, I also read Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 2, which is the second collection of short stories in this universe as well. I didn't read them back to back, but I'm just going to cover them both right now. I liked them. I'm not a huge, if you've watched some of the videos on this channel, you know I'm not a huge fan of short story collections. I gave them, I think I gave them both a 3 or a 3.5. I think I gave the first one a 3 and the second one a 3.5, actually, now that I'm remembering. And I liked them. I thought that neither of them is particularly necessary to enjoy the larger series. Neither of them is necessary at all. There is one short story, I think it's the last one in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 1, called The Demons of Arae, A-R-A-E. I'm probably pronouncing that terribly, but it directly impacts the next book, which is Demon in White, the third book in the Sun Eater series. So there's one short story that really directly impacts the next book, but even within the book, what happens in the story is explained in, just without getting a first person perspective on what happens. So it's really not particularly required. It's just, again, fun to be back and see some interesting kind of disparate stories in the universe to flesh it out a little bit more. I liked the second one a little bit more, even though I think it had less to do with the larger narrative, largely because of the last two. The second to last short story in Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 2 is from the perspective of Dr. Valka Undera, which was just cool. She's one of the major characters in the series. I didn't expect us to ever really get a POV story from her, so I really just enjoyed that. And it also covers a story in more detail that she mentions briefly in Demon in White, which is the third book in the series, so that was just kind of fun. And then the last one is again from Crispin's point of view, and I realized I just really like Crispin.
I like the name Crispin.
I like stories about Hadrian's family and what's happened to them and what's happening to them. So that was kind of fun. I hope, I know there's a Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3, and I hope that there is another one about the Marlows back on Delos, because I just kind of enjoy what's going on there and their family dynamic.
This is a sci-fi series, right?
This is a big, space opera, yes. So then I also read Demon in White, which is the third book in the Sun Eater series, and easily my favorite so far. This book is massive. It is monstrous. So much happens in it. I gave it an easy 5 out of 5 stars. Okay. It's hard to talk about without going into spoilers, but it really goes more into, Hadrian's psyche and how he... and the results of his actions and the cult of personality that's kind of being built up around him regardless of whether or not he wants it, and the effects of that, and the political effects of that. There's a lot of geopolitical scheming that happens in this book. There are incredible action scenes, one of the best duel scenes I've ever seen written in a book.
Wow.
Just thrilling.
Great.
I really, I cannot say enough about this book. It is so good. You should really...
It is so good.
It is so good. You should read the Sun Eater series if you like sci-fi at all. It's, maybe eventually, it's not like a light... read. It's dense.
Okay.
So, but it's kind of dark. Yeah.
I can take some dark.
So, I have a lot of fantasy series I have for you to go through first before we go to anything that could even be kind of construed as dark. So, because I don't think you're going to really like anything that's dark.
I don't know. I guess I've read, I don't know. Depends on your definition of dark, I suppose.
That's true. Anyway, and so the other book I read this month, finally not a Sun Eater book, is Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. If you're aware, this was book 1 of the Secret Projects that came out last year, and I loved this book. This was exactly what I needed in between, kind of heavy Sun Eater books, which is when I read it. I read it sometime in between Howling Dark and Demon in White, and this was another 5 out of 5 stars for me. I loved this. It's like a whimsical adult fairy tale. It's so fun. Sanderson continues to just be able to make really interesting worlds and magic systems that will bring you in and intrigue you. This book has great and memorable characters. It's a little bit different than Sanderson's normal stuff. It's kind of like a new tone because Hoyd is actually the narrator, which I found to be really fun. I like Hoyd's voice and his humor. It also allows the book to have a somewhat more philosophical bent at certain times than I expect from Sanderson generally. Sanderson has a lot of very emotional moments in his books, but there were some really interesting moments dealing with like human psyche and things like anxiety and stuff, which I really, really liked. But overall, it's just, you can't go anywhere on the internet without hearing comparisons between this book and The Princess Bride, and they're very apt. It's just really good. It was a complete delight to read, start to finish, and exactly kind of what I needed in between some larger books. But that is everything that I read this month. And if you want to hear some other abridged thoughts on some of the books that we have read, we have started doing micro reviews on shorts. These are 60-second reviews of
Robbie's laughing because he really struggled with the 60 seconds.
It's really hard. Anyway, we do 60-second reviews of the books that we read on our own that we're not going to do full videos of on the channel. So if you want to see any of our very abridged thoughts on those, please feel free to check them out on Shorts. But yeah, so what are we going to be reading this coming month?
So I'll be reading book 5 in the Wheel of Time series, The Fires of Heaven.
Yes.
Another 900-page beauty.
Yes. I will be reading the 4th book in the Throne of Glass series, Queen of Shadows. And we are going to be taking, not a full break from Percy Jackson this month, but because Liz has the new Crescent City book, which is going to be quite long, I believe, to read, that she's very excited for.
I don't know, my reread of the first one, the first 2 took me 4 days, so.
Okay, well, but, and she also has to read Fires of Heaven, which is also very, very long. We are just going to be reading I guess it's a collection of short stories. Yeah, the Demigod Files, which is kind of, from what I understand, in between books 4 and 5 of the Percy Jackson series. And I know that these are pretty short, but, we've been reading a lot, and I want to make sure that we have time to read the things that we need to. So it's going to probably be a little bit of a shorter video for Percy Jackson this month, but I am very excited because I've never read these before, so that'll be really cool to get some additional stories in the Percy Jackson universe.
I'm intrigued. I'm excited.
Anything you were looking forward to reading on your own?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. The third Crescent City book.
House of Flame and Shadow, the 3rd Crescent City book. I think I'm probably going to be doing my own video about this, just because it's such a big one, and I know so many of us are fans. Robbie obviously has not read any of the Crescent City books, so it's just going to be me, because there are going to be a lot of spoilers, because it's really hard to talk about any Sarah J. Maas without getting spoilers, because girl likes to write a tricksy story. So I will probably be doing my own video of that. So instead of the short form little micro review, I'll be doing a video on that, because also I'm so excited and I know I'm going to want to talk about it, and I know you're probably going to want to talk about it, so we can talk about it together. But obviously read the book first. That's really the only thing I have planned, because I really can't think beyond that. I think I will I have a desire to read some like cutie little 200-300 page romance books, so maybe we'll throw in an Elle Kennedy hockey romance, or I'll continue reading Zodiac Academy. Those are longer than I think, but I kind of want to throw in some little easy reads, because I've been reading a lot of really intense stories. Yeah. So we'll see. Nothing really planned beyond House of Flame and Shadow, because I can't think beyond it. I'm so excited. I'm so excited. If you can tell, I love this series.
She's very excited. I am going to be continuing my journey with the Sun Eater series. I've already started actually, Kingdoms of Death. So I'm assuming I will have finished that by the end of the month, and probably some other Sun Eater books. I will probably need to take a break from it at some point mid-month, so I think I'm probably going to read Of Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes, which is the prequel to Legends and Lattes that my wife so wonderfully got me for Christmas. I don't have Legends and Lattes, but I do have Bookshops and Bone Dust, which is why I was planning to read it first, even though it came out second.
Yeah.
Is that okay? If you've watched this video and you have read both of them, will I be fine just reading Bookshops and Bone Dust first? Because I kind of want to read a physical book. I never get to read them anymore. I'm almost always reading on my Kindle, and we have Bookshops and Bone Dust physically, so if that's a terrible idea, let me know in the comments down below, and I will readjust, and I'll find a way to get Legends and Lattes. But yeah, that's kind of my plan right now, but mostly I'm just going to keep chugging through Sun Eater. I still have 1, 2, 3 books and a collection of short stories and a novella. So that's probably going to keep me going until sometime in March, I would guess. And we're also going to be continuing our videos on the Percy Jackson TV series. If you haven't checked them out, you can find a link to the playlist down below. We've been enjoying it overall so far, but yesterday will have been the final episode that it will have aired. So hopefully we will have enjoyed it. But we will be doing a final episode discussion, and then I think a whole season discussion as well.
Yeah.
At some point in the coming weeks. So really excited about that too. Fun.
Thanks for watching, guys. We enjoy doing this, and I hope you enjoy it. It's been nice to connect with people in the community that love the things we love.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you all so much for watching, and
we'll see you on our next adventure.